Okay. Come back here. What I want you to do right now is I would like everybody to go into Blackboard. Let's go to Unit 3. And we are going to scroll down here. Oops, invisible. I'm going to open up this presentation. You don't necessarily have to have that open. I am going to ask. Here we go. We're going to try something a little bit different today with the presentation. If you are on your computer, if you on your device, if you want to type in to the web search bar, canva.live, and then enter the code 28NS space RPWD. That will allow us to have like a chat box with this. If you're on your phone and you want to scan the QR code and participate that way, you can. I'm going to ask you some questions today. We're just going to try out this method of participating in here. So hold on. Let me get my questions open there. Okay, so we talked about the rhetorical tools. We talked about these rhetorical tools in class on Thursday. I'm going to come back. Hopefully I didn't kick everybody out of that session. We came up with this purple rhetorical tools card in class Tuesday. We said when we were going to look for examples of ethos, pathos, and logos, these were the things we needed to look for in each of those. We said we knew an author was using the tool of ethos when they remind us of who they are and what their experiences are in the topic. So for example, if I'm writing an essay about homework and I say, as a professor in the English department at Vincennes University and a teacher for over 25 years, I can speak about homework. You know, I have this opinion about homework. So that would be ethos. Jargon and specialized terms are another thing that we look for. So if we see language that is specific to the topic, very specialized language, that can show that you're using or trying to incorporate ethos. If you see correct language and grammar, those are examples of ethos being used, as well as solid reasoning and good arguments. Pathos, when we're looking for examples of pathos in an article, we look for descriptive language and imagery. We look for the author to identify values and emotions that are important to the audience. So things like patriotism, family, love, fear, faith, and also personal stories, whether it's a personal story about the author or it's a personal story about somebody else. Those are all examples of using the tool pathos. Logos, we look for examples of logos in articles by looking for numbers, percentages, statistics. We also look for reasoning that are statements kind of like, if this certain thing, then that result might happen. Also, anytime they give solid reasons for their main claim, that would be logos. So, using these tools here, good. Same one here. All right. So I didn't kick everybody out of it. All right. So let's see some of these tools in action. So I've pulled up a paragraph here about homework, the topic that I've been researching alongside you all semester. I'm going to read this article or this paragraph to you. Yes.
How do you do it? It won't let me go on.
Somebody who else who had problems this morning with it. I'm not sure. There you go. So let me read this paragraph to you, and I want you to tell me what tools, rhetorical tools, you see being used in here. So we see, imagine coming home after a long, tiring day at school, only to be greeted by hours of homework that drain any remaining energy or motivation. Instead of relaxing or spending time with family and friends, students are forced to dive back into assignments that often feel like endless, repetitive exercises. This relentless cycle not only exhausts them, but creates an overwhelming sense of stress and anxiety, robbing them of the simple joys of childhood and adolescence. The weight of homework hangs over them like a dark cloud, adding pressure that disrupts their peace, rest, and personal time. For students, homework often becomes less about learning and more about a daily struggle to complete assignments, leaving little time for hobbies, relaxation, or just being a kid. All right, so first of all, before anybody types or does anything, what rhetorical tool do you see being used in this paragraph? It's trying to convince us that homework is not a good thing. Yes. No, you can leave it blank. But don't necessarily type it. Let's just say, anybody want to make a guess here real quick? Pathos, yes. We see lots and lots of emotion used in this paragraph. So right now, this is where I want you to type. In the chat there, I want you to put phrases and words that you see in that paragraph that signal to you that this paragraph is using the tool, the rhetorical tool pathos, to persuade us that homework is a bad thing. Imagine is one, yes. Overwhelming, absolutely. Drain, a long, tiring day. Homework, it's relentless. Also, the phrase, students are forced to do this. Stress. Repetitive, struggle, anxiety, the weight of homework. Very good. Dark cloud, that's that imagery. It's disruptive. It robs people. It's pressure. So yes, all of these are phrases and words that we see here that signal to us that this paragraph is using the rhetorical tool of pathos. Now, that's just about the only tool that this paragraph uses. Do we see any examples of ethos in there, like where their ethos is the tool of credibility, like where they're trying to show that they're trustworthy or credible? No. Do we see any logos there, like statistics? No. So I want you to think about this paragraph. If somebody was trying to convince you that homework is not a good thing, and they use this paragraph to do that, how would focusing mainly on pathos, how does it make you feel about this topic? Do you think that it makes this argument more convincing? Or do you think maybe the argument feels a little one-sided? And you don't have to type anything in. We can just talk about this. Kind of one-sided. There's not really anything in here positive about homework. Okay. What do you think are some strengths of using that tool of emotion, of pathos? Like, what good things come from using this tool if you're trying to convince somebody that homework is a bad thing? You're trying to maybe tell a personal story, you're persuading them. You might try to persuade them by telling them what your view on homework is. By including all these emotional words and language, how do you think that could be persuasive? Might it be convincing? Yeah, these are all like negative feelings. Like, these are things you don't want to feel. And so using that emotional language might make people not want to feel that way. So those are strengths. What do you think are some weaknesses in just using pathos? Just relying on emotion to convince somebody.
There's nothing to back it up.
There's not anything really solid evidence wise to back it up other than just feelings, which are mostly opinions. What about, like, if a person, let's say that a person already believes that homework is a bad thing. When they read this, like, what do you think that's going to do for their perspective? If they already think that homework's not a good thing, if they read this paragraph, what do you think that's going to do to their, is it going to change their mind? Is it going to, how will it affect their viewpoint?
It doesn't give them a chance to see it yourself.
Yeah, there's no other side there. They're not being stretched. It's just going to confirm. And what if they disagree and they think homework's great and then they read this? What do you think is going to do to a person's opinion on this topic? Do you think if they go into this and they're like, homework's a great thing, and then they read this, do you think just using emotion is going to change their mind? No, probably not. In fact, like, what may happen?
Believing more strongly in what they already thought about it.
Yeah. And it may even like upset them. Like, they may take this personally. They might, if when you start to get feelings and emotion involved in something, a lot of times, like, that automatically shuts off a person's, like, it closes that. Once they start reading this, they're like, oh, I disagree with this, and they, don't have an open mind into looking at this. So very good. All right, now next paragraph. I've got another paragraph here that is written with a different tool. Again, trying to convince somebody that homework is not a good thing. Research shows that homework often adds little to a student's overall educational experience, as pointed out by leading educators and child psychologists. according to studies, extended homework hours don't significantly improve academic performance for younger students and have limited efforts or effects even for older students, a stance that is supported by respected education experts like Alfie Kohn. Renowned organizations such as the American Psychological Association report that excessive homework is a major source of stress for students, impacting their mental and physical well-being. Education researchers argue that rather than enhancing learning, homework takes away valuable time that could be spent on rest, family, and extracurricular activities, which are essential for balanced development. By focusing on class participation and meaningful engagement, students can thrive without the added burden that homework creates. What tool do you think is being used in this paragraph?
Ethos.
Ethos, yes, it is ethos. So right now in the chat, I want you to type in words and phrases that tell you that this paragraph is using ethos. Research shows, according to studies, a renowned organization, according to, pointed out by educators. Researchers argue. Education researchers. There's still like two more. Yep, Alfie Kohn is an expert. So we're relying on Alfie's expertise. The APA, the American Psychological Association, is another national organization. We're reporting stats. Very good. All of those words and phrases there are words and phrases that tell us that we're relying on ethos. We're relying on trying to show the reader that and persuade the reader that homework is a bad thing by relying on trusted resources or sources here. Do you see much pathos in here? Do you see a lot of emotional language? No. Do you see statistics? No. We're saying according to studies in there, but those studies, they don't give us specific statistics from those studies. It's very general. All right, so let's talk about this paragraph again. How do you think that relying heavily on these opinions for experts impacts the person who you're trying to convince that homework is a bad thing? How do you think that impacts their trust in the argument? Like, does the person who's reading this, do you think that they trust what's being told to them based on? Yeah, probably. I mean, those sources aren't too bad. So what do you think is a strength? What makes it a good thing to use this tool by relying on experts and research studies to support the point? Like, what makes that a good thing to do? Right. It's not somebody's personal opinion. We're relying on the expertise of other people. What are there any weaknesses in just using ethos. You're not giving exact statistics. So while you're saying like these studies show, you're not, people may look at that and go, well, you know, since they're not telling me a statistic, what does that mean? Like maybe they're hiding something. Okay. What do you think would happen to this argument that the article is making if they added some personal stories in there? They might connect with it better. This, what's the tone of this paragraph currently? Yeah, it's serious. Yeah, we can get lost in some of the, like it's not gripping, and you can maybe get a little bored, or kind of things start to just go over, that information goes past you because you're not maybe connecting with it in a personal way. Okay. Last paragraph, or not last, this is our third paragraph. We got one more after this. All right, tell me about this paragraph. Again, the person's trying to convince us that homework is a bad thing. They say studies reveal that homework may not significantly impact students' academic achievement, particularly for younger students. Research from Duke University found that while high school students might see slight gains from moderate homework, excessive assignments often show diminishing returns, especially for elementary and middle school students. Data from the OECD supports this, indicating that countries with less homework often achieve similar or higher test scores than those with more, suggesting that time spent on homework doesn't correlate directly with academic success. Moreover, a study by Stanford University found that over 50% of students cited homework as their primary source of stress, with no notable increase in learning outcomes. This data suggests that, beyond a certain point, homework provides minimal educational value, instead consuming valuable time that could be better spent on restorative activities that foster well-rounded development. So the tool being used here is logos. So over in the chat, I want you to put some words and phrases here that show us that this is logos. Very good. Over 50% of students. Data from the OECD. Than those with more here. Right here. This statement, countries with less homework often achieve similar or higher test scores than those with more homework. So this is logic. Like if countries give less homework, you're going to have either similar or better test scores than a student, or than countries like the United States who gives more. So we've got a logic statement here. Research from Duke, Stanford University. Those are a little bit of ethos in there with those institutions. Very good. Also, the statement where they say that data suggests that beyond a certain point, homework gives minimal educational value. So that's kind of logic. Here's the data, and here's what the results from the data showed. All right. Now let's discuss this logos paragraph. Do you think that presenting
mostly facts and statistics. Do you think that this paragraph is more persuasive to you or less persuasive to you? You think this is more persuasive, okay? And why do you think this is more persuasive? Yep. Yep, they tell you the exact statistics, they tell you where it came from. It allows you to kind of make your own choice and decision on that. So what do you think are the benefits, the strengths of using logos in an argument? Like when you're trying to persuade somebody. You've got your solid reasons. Do you think that there are any downsides, any weaknesses?
And again, it can feel kind of flat and technical.
Yeah, it's very, very technical. It's not personal at all. It does feel flat. It almost, the tone of it almost feels robotic because it's just fact, 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 fact. How do you think adding a real life example or an expert's, so like pathos, adding some emotion or a personal story, or even an expert's opinion or perspectives, do you think that that would strengthen this argument? Yeah. So again, we can tell when we're going to evaluate how well an author, what kind of job an author does on making their argument and making a strong argument. One way that we can kind of analyze that and make a judgment on it is, did they use a balanced amount of those tools? If they just focus on pathos, that argument's not going to be as effective. If they just use logos, it's not going to be as effective. If they just use ethos, it's not going to be as effective. When you put all those tools together, you take the power from each one of those and you put them together, you get a really effective, sound argument. So let's take a look at this last paragraph. This last paragraph I want to show you has all three tools combined in there. This paragraph says, homework, despite its long-standing presence in education, provides limited benefits. It contributes to high stress levels, and it often consumes valuable time that could be used for other growth activities. Leading educators and psychologists argue that homework's impact on academic achievement is minimal, especially for younger students, as evidenced by research from the American Psychological Association showing that hours spent on assignments offer little measurable benefit. Emotionally, students frequently feel overwhelmed by the burden of homework, with 56% of students reporting that it is their #1 source of stress. From a practical standpoint, this added workload prevents students from participating in family activities, rest, and hobbies, all of which are essential for healthy development. Instead of spending their evenings struggling to finish assignments, students deserve time to recharge and explore activities that truly enrich their minds and their spirits. This evidence shows that homework time could be better spent on activities that support both learning and personal growth. So we've got a little bit stronger argument there when we use all three of those tools. So I'm going to exit out of this. You can exit out of your Canva Live now. And I'm going to go back here to my content. Okay, so we're going to get ready to start assignment 3.11. So I want you to open up assignment 3.11 And I want you to open up this file. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these tools that we've been looking at and talking about, and we're going to use, we're going to try to identify those tools that are being used in your article. So I'm going to leave that 311 tab open. I may need to come back over into Blackboard, and I may need to go back to my database that was in 3.5. Go back to my article that I found. My article that I chose for this unit. It's the same one you wrote the summary over. Maybe if I, there we go. All right, so I'm going to go back to my topic page. I'm going to go back. I chose the article, homework can lead to repetition of mistakes. It takes a toll on family life. All right. So once you have your article pulled back up, you're going to come back over into 311. All right, you're going to put your last name up at the top corner on 311, up by the page number. Up where it says name, you're going to put your first and last name. Professor Singleton, English 101. Today's date is the 31st of October, very last day of October, 2024. And you'll see underneath that title, I had copied and pasted an article in there just to show you, like, this is what I'm talking about here, like what we're going to do. You can delete that article, that example that I put, and you're going to go back to your article here. And this website won't let you like scroll down and get all of it. So you may have to do this in chunks. But you're going to take in chunks, you're going to copy and paste that article over into your document. So I went to groups here. Now here's the second chunk. I'm going to get this part. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, and you're going to get all of the article copied and pasted over into this document. Once you've done that, your homework is going to be to read through this article carefully, line by line. And I want you to identify as many examples of logos, as many examples of ethos, and as many examples of pathos as you can. If you don't get every single one of them, like if you accidentally miss a few, that's not a big deal. What I want you to do though is to identify as many as you can. So you're going to go through, you can even start with your title. Sometimes the title can have things like homework takes a toll on families. I can highlight that and make a copy if they're saying it takes a toll. That's emotional language, so I can put pathos there. Let me show you another sentence. Some sentences, like this one, have a combination of tools. According to Anne Government, a researcher with the Health Information and Research Division at Statistics Canada, this first part is ethos. The second part, the majority of children and youth, which is 86%, participate in at least one extracurricular activity. Okay, that's logos, because I've got a statistic here. So you can go through and tag these, make, comments and tag them. Some of my students don't like having everything in yellow, because once you put these tags out to the side, it's not necessarily easy to just really at a glance to see how many ethos or how many logos or how many pathos you have. Some students prefer, instead of making a using the Google comment feature, they prefer doing something like this, where they make a key for me at the top, like ethos, logos, pathos, ethos. And they might say all logos is going, you'll highlight, use the highlighter tool and highlight those in orange. All pathos, you're going to highlight that tool, and all of those are going to be in purple. Ethos, maybe all of those would be in green. It doesn't matter what colors you use, but if you provide me a key so I can see what you're doing, sometimes students prefer, here, take a toll on family, they would highlight that purple then. Oops, there we go. Because that's pathos. So some people like to be able to see at a glance, wow, there's a lot of purple in there. That means, this article's mostly ethos, or so whichever method you choose is fine with me. You want to make them tags. If you want to make them colors, doesn't matter, just as long as I can tell that you went through and marked your article up with the examples of logos, ethos, and pathos. Now, what we're going to do with this, when you get finished with 311, next week, we're going to take these tags that you came up with, and you're going to count. How many logos did you have? How many ethos did you have? How many pathos did you have? And you're going to try to determine, did the author maybe use one tool more than another? Or was there a balanced use of tools in the article? And we're going to take that information, all the counting, and you're going to use that to write your third, I'm sorry, not your third, but your Unit 3 essay. So your essay is going to be all about whether or not you think that you're going to judge and evaluate if the author of the article that you read, if they did an effective job in presenting their point, in persuading you. That doesn't mean you have to agree with them. It just means, did you think what they did was effective? Did they use that balance of tools there? So we've got around 20 minutes or so left in class. What I want you to do right now is to spend some time going through and marking up your articles. And then you can turn in 311 when you're done. So you can come here and turn this in when you're finished. That's fine, because all assignments 3.1 through 3.11 are due next week on Tuesday at the end of the day. Next week, we start 3.12, which is our outline for our essay, that the next essay we're going to write. So we're going to start that in class on Tuesday. Are there any questions? And again, if you don't find every example in the article, that's okay. But you want to try to find as many as you can, because that's going to, like, knowing how many there are is how you're going to be able to evaluate whether or not they had a balanced use of the tool.